So we're joined today with Herbert from Brighter. He does a great show every day, really. And he has me on his show Fridays at noon. You should check that out for sure. But I've got a question for him, and it's about Tesla, the stock.
Yes.
When is the right time to buy and all that? Because people will tell you all the time, well, I would have bought it when it did, but I didn't. When is the best time to buy Tesla?
You're asking me that question right now?
Yeah, right now.
All right. So I do a show called Cyber Bulls. You've seen that, right, Brian?
I have.
And we have 4 different kinds of investors. 3 main different kinds of investors, right? There's Christian, there's Xander, and there's me. We have different styles. And I'll just get right to the punchline. The punchline is we've been having like 30 episodes now, and we kind of debate. At the very beginning, we were debating each other. My style is better than your style, and my philosophy is better. At the end of the day, what the answer is, all styles together make sense, right? And
Right.
so I'm a forever bull. I call myself that because what that is that I don't buy and sell based on timing. What's more important to me is, can you find a company that you have conviction in? Do you think that this company is going to grow? Do you think that the stock will grow? Do you think that it has the right balance sheet and the right market opportunity? And when I do find that company, and then initially I started with right, you would have multiple companies, you'd have a basket to reduce your risk and so forth. But sometimes I felt like I can actually make more money by concentrating into a handful of stocks instead of just one stock. And it all matters depending on you and your situation. So when I was younger, I was going to take a lot of risk. As I get older, as I need that money soon, I will take less risk. But in my general style is I pick a once in a generation company and I put most of my money into that. So I did that with Apple. I concentrated on Apple. And in that scenario, I don't believe in timing the market. I don't think anybody can time the market. And that's called momentum investing. And that's my debate with Christian. Christian believes he does a great job of timing the market. And then you've heard this already, right? That people are saying that if you could time the market, you would be a billionaire today. And nobody's a billionaire because no one knows what's going to happen with that. And so you don't know what is high or what's low. But Christian feels like he can figure this out. And we'll share information about how he does that. But for me, I don't time the market. I don't play short-term options or calls. I just buy a stock, and whenever I have cash, I'll keep buying it. Okay.
So
that's what
you're
I've
saying
done.
dollar cost average? Mm-hmm.
Dollar cost average when it's low, I'm going to buy more. Absolutely. If I think it's relatively low, but it doesn't stop me from buying it when it's high. I'll keep buying. And as an example of this, I was buying Apple since literally like the early 80s, like
Wow.
decades ago. And I kept accumulating because I kept liking that stock. And then when Warren Buffett bought it, I was going, oh my God, Buffett came very late. This stock is at all-time high. How dumb of them to buy now when it's taken this many years to get to this level. They're buying an all-time high. Of course, as we look back today, they did the right move. They made hundreds of billions of dollars in that buy. But at that moment, it was the all-time high.
So
I
you
went all
are
in.
smarter than Warren Buffett. We got that established.
No, obviously he is the number one stock trader in the world. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's my style. I happen to like technology. I happen to love companies that I think I can see the future. Just a quick aside, the best chance for a company to succeed when somebody asks you, is it the market, is it the product, or the team? Most people will say, hey, you put your bet on the team. You got the right people on board. It doesn't matter what the product is. They're going to succeed. Some people will say, hey, if you have the great product, that's what you want, the product market fit. But the actual truth of it all is that the market matters. If you hit the right timing and the right market, the massiveness of that market change, the revolution, it almost doesn't matter which company you pick. Obviously, you pick the right company, it's going to be more. But most companies will rise, right? Because it's the right market. So in this case, there was the move from the dumb phone to the smartphone. So whether you chose Samsung or you chose Apple, you succeeded. Now we're talking about the revolution to the electric vehicles. And so there's a potential, but you can't time the market. Sometimes it goes up and comes down. So I went all in into Tesla. Now, Christian, he believes in momentum investing. So he sees that when Tesla was at its all-time high last year, around this time last year, right? Or, February, it was at all-time high, $1,400. He started to let go of some stock. not all of us who are Tesla believers could do that and feel like they can do that. We don't know that that was its all-time high. We kept thinking it was going to keep going up higher. And so he does that. And the thing I learned from him was to always have what he calls dry tinder. So you want to have a significant amount of cash so that when it does fall, you can do dollar cost averaging and really kind of like really buy when it fell. So when it fell to $100, he started buying as well. So it sounds like he's smart. It sounds like I'm dumb, but the reality is very few people can actually do this timing correctly. And then the third style is what Xander does. And what he does is options trading. And so he's taught me how to do different kinds of options trading. And so now I've learned how to do the long-term leaps, which is a little bit safer. And then I did dabble with the short-term calls, which was a mistake for me. I learned my lesson. I did it with, I have some calls expiring right now in March that I didn't time properly, but I don't want to do those anymore, right? Because that's just doesn't move me, doesn't excite me to do these calls. But I think it's very, very important that I learned how to do these things. So it's like, yeah, just to kind of learn how to read the economy better. But I still I don't believe in astronomy, stock astronomy, and reading the charts. But I tell you, I was with Xander one day. We spent 4 hours together, and he made call after call after call of what's going to happen to the stock within those, as it moved, those next 30 minutes, the next hour. And he hit it 4 times in a row. He was dead on straight. So it kind of like follows a pattern, but I think that for me is still betting as opposed to investing. So
I would agree with that. The market can be irrational. The fact that Tesla's in such a strong position now compared to a year ago, and the stock is under half of what it was, is evidence of that. What did you see in Apple that gave you the confidence that it was a once-in-a-generation company?
yeah, so I mean, I was dabbling in it, but then I started to really get into it when they showed the iPhone, the smartphone. So when you saw the smartphone, I think we all saw that, right? It was very clear that this is going to take over the world. It's going to take over every single smartphone out there. And I thought that they had such a lead. I did not expect that Samsung would be able to do a fast follower copy, and they'd be able to get away with it. But it was just such an amazing experience of being able to access the internet anywhere. Like I physically had I bought the very first iPhone, and I was like at a mall, and then my friend was going to drive back to across the border, and he asked me the question, what is the actual deductible amount that you can actually do and have without getting taxed on it? And I was able to just right there, sitting there, look it up on the webpage and found the answer. Right? That didn't exist before that. It wasn't that easy. And like
Game
this is
changer.
clearly, yeah. So for me, it's like the market size of smartphones is billions of people. Apple had that, and they had such a great product, and they had a great team. Of course, they're proven, and then just like take a look. They're a massive company with incredible balance sheet, cash flow. They just manage themselves so well, and so it was a safe bet to me. So in fact, that's why I picked these companies. I actually would argue to you. Somebody would say to me, "Oh, it's risky when you go to just a handful of stocks instead of having a basket of stocks." I would argue it's actually risky when you invest in other companies other than these companies that are once in a generation because they're so strong. Why would you put your money anywhere else? And if you spread out your money into a basket of stocks, why bother doing that? Just go ahead and put it into the ETF. Just go put it into the Dow and NASDAQ and the QQQs. Why would you do this? Why would you, you're diluting your potential for growth. And I am at that time in growth. I wanted to grow. Now, as you move along, different stages, I might want to just stick with an ETF right now to be safe. And that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And so when I have tried to invest outside of Tesla in other companies that I don't follow as closely, because you can't. There is no company with this kind of information available. I have not done well.
Yeah.
I would say of the stocks I've bought since buying Tesla, they're all in the tank. But that's
but these are rules of stock investing that I'm breaking.
yeah.
Do not fall in love with a stock. Rule number 1. Right.
Well, I can't sell it now. It's gone down 50%, my friend. It can get worse. When I bought in the dip of 19, very, very excited about that. I told my friends, I bragged to I said, I bought Tesla at 188 or whatever it was. And he said, oh, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. I was like, right, but I follow it in ways you don't and you can't because you don't have the obsession that I do. And I bought it just on the strength of the half-complete Giga Shanghai and just that. And the truck hadn't been announced yet. I was like, all that is just upside, not the autonomy, none of it. And then it kept going up and up, and people kept asking me, oh, should I buy it now? And I just don't give advice. I do not give financial advice because sometimes you'll be right and sometimes you'll be wrong. And you will definitely get this much credit when you're right and 100% of the blame when you're wrong. But the truth is, I don't know. I don't pretend to know the future or where the stock is going or any of that. So when your friends ask you, should I buy it today?
Yeah.
What do you tell them?
What I tell them is that the one metric that has shown to be very accurate in measuring whether or not a stock price should go up or down is the earnings. And so when they do earnings calls and you watch what's happening with earnings and you actually can track to see what you think the earnings will be and how likely is it that they're going to grow versus how likely it is that competitors come or they falter because of a business decision, so forth. But if the earnings grow, then it's just a matter of time that the stock price needs to catch up. Correct? That's basically because of how much cash they're getting and how much earnings they're getting, and that's why people invest in a company. So, if you believe that this company's earnings are going to continue to grow quarter by quarter, then that's why I invest. And one of the big things to think about is the thesis of the market that you're in, right? How likely is it that dumb phones will be replaced by smartphones? How many years will it take? What percentage of people will buy? And is there a likelihood that another tech or another, that will not happen? You can't, displace incumbents. And in this case, Tesla, we're looking at the transition to electric vehicles to electric vehicles. And as we know, the big number is there's only, Tesla's only sold 2.5% of electric vehicles today, and they're valued at this amount. So what's the likelihood that they'll get to 5% or 10%, even if there are competitors, even if there's competitors? And so, yes, eventually, right, every ICE car will be replaced by EVs. And so I feel very comfortable by looking at that big, giant market, right, that's going to move. And then does Tesla have the ability to gain earnings? And they've proven. Now, a few years ago, they almost went bankrupt. So that was a real bet. But today, you look at where they're at, how they're handling their business, how much cash they're doing, and their margins. So it feels like it's very comfortable. So the weird thing is that the stock fell, and yet the company is as safe or safer than it's ever been, and it's about to hit that inflection point. But we all got stung last year, and so we're all very careful to say, to get back that gumption, say it's going to happen soon. So we can't say it anymore because we don't know what's going to happen to the macro, right?
So what some people, and as a reminder, this is a pre-taped show. I might be in the chat. I don't know. People say, yes, but okay, so let's say they do become the biggest car company in the world. Let's say they make it. Let's say they get bigger than Toyota or GM by double. That still doesn't justify these stock prices.
Right.
What do you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, that's the big question of the price per earnings. And is this being rated as a car company? And again, you and I kind of follow this company so closely that we know that this company is not just a car company, right? We see them as a AI company that, is this just a car with an iPad slapped on it? Or is this and they're the FSD computer, the robotics, the dojo, the just everything we know that they're working on, and energy packs and so forth. So this is an energy company. That's what this is. So if it's an energy company, then you try to look at that market and see how much money you can make from that market. So it's pretty well kind of like you can see that they're already selling energy packs. They're proven that the business model works. You can see what this is headed. So, I mean, Yeah, I mean that's the debate that everybody has, right? If you say it's a car
Yeah.
company, people are saying, yeah, $200, that's a fair price at this point. And even us bulls, some people are saying that right now. Like I hate it when somebody says, "Well, it fell from 300 to 100. Now we're back at 200, so it might take us 2 or 3 years to get back to 300." I'm like, if it can fall from 300 to 100 in 2 months, it should be able to rise from 100 to 300 in 2 months. Like, why are you creating these artificial kind of guesses? Now, I could be very, very wrong. I'm not saying it's going to do that. I'm just saying, don't put kind of like these restrictions in your mind about what this is. What do you think the price should be? That's how you start. And I do not believe that this is worth a $200, right? The PE ratio should absolutely, what's your expectation for earnings next year? It's been reduced because of the macro and the price cuts, but this is temporary. So maybe in 2 years, 3 years from now, if you try to guess what the earnings are going to be, and then you multiply it by what is the price PE ratio, then you're going to get the price, and it's not 200 at this point. So part of investing is kind of like getting in now when people don't believe it's certain price, and then because you believe it's going to be higher in the future, right? And so that's why you're investing. That's an investment.
So what I would say is all that is absolutely correct. If when you invested in Apple, you didn't invest in a phone company, you invested in
Yeah.
a company that happened to make a phone.
Yeah.
If that was the extent of the innovation, if when they were an iPod company,
Yeah. That's
uh,
right.
we didn't know that iPods were about to become obsolete. And they are the ones who made it obsolete because they are positioned to look to the future. And that's what we're seeing with Tesla is
Yeah.
in a post-car world, there's still a role for them. If cars became illegal
Yeah.
tomorrow, they would
Yeah.
still be an energy company, a bot company, a software company. They would be all these things. They and you look at and say, well, yeah, but Toyota makes 10 times as many cars, right? But they make the same amount of money, and that's where the iPhone comparison gets real close. Is Apple doesn't make all the phones in the world, but they do make all the money.
Yeah.
And if Tesla gets to 10 million cars, 20 million cars with 20% margins, I don't know what they'll do with all the money. It's
When so I love what you just did there. It's exactly correct, right? When I started investing in Apple, they weren't even doing iPods yet. And so what was the market? The market at that point was a technology revolution, right? So initially it was desktop computing, and then software, computing and software. And then, just watching how Steve Jobs and the Apple team, how they think of the market, how they produce products, and how they thought about how technology needed to be accessible and usable. That's what you bet on. Now, the initial market was the transition to desktop computing, but then it became mobile computing, and then it became right, and then they become an ecosystem, service ecosystem around this group of people who switched to the smartphones. We didn't You didn't need to predict that it was going to happen, but you knew that technology, computing was getting doubling in size, right, reducing in size, and becoming better. And so what they really were doing was computing that was reducing in size that can then be used everywhere and anywhere. And so then new markets open up, and that's the market you were betting on. In this case, in Tesla, you know, we were talking about electric vehicle transition to EVs, and we're talking about cars. But like we said earlier, what they really are is the technology. They're a technology company that is able to create kind of like where we're today is really a computer on wheels. It's more akin to a computer on wheels than it is a car on wheels, right? And so yeah, it's the real world AI, it's the Doge, it's the robotaxi, and then now you could take that technology and apply it to a robot. So that's the
and
market,
and
which is
do
even
so
bigger.
directly, even with the crash testing. They use the same crash testing software because of course you did.
Yeah,
Boston Dynamics spent 20 years trial and erroring it, and you just fed it into a machine. Of course you did.
yeah,
What's interesting to me about Tesla, so to answer the question plainly, when is the best time to buy Tesla? My
yeah,
answer is a little bit all the time. And I
yes,
have bought I have shares I bought over 200. I have shares I bought over 300, and I am not bitter about it. The difference between Tesla and any other company is A, the fan base is unbelievable. This is Apple times 10. There's never been an engaged group of consumers and investors like this for anything ever. And the second reason is the talent, the staff. I had an opportunity to sit in on a work meeting, on a production meeting with some contractors who work at Tesla. I don't think they work for Tesla, but I wasn't able to ask any questions because I wasn't invited to the meeting. They just held it in a hotel lobby, and I sat there pretending to drink my coffee for an hour. These people are not in the cult. These people are on the job. These are not people who they're hard workers. They're very smart. They're very sharp. They are. This was the day after Investor Day. I thought these people would be gone. I thought they were just in town for a couple days for Investor Day, and no, they were working just as hard the day after as the day before as the day of. And it's the smartest people in the world want to work there. Yeah. And if you don't want to come to Texas or California to do it, hold on a minute. We're going to build something near you soon.
Yeah. So when you said that, that it's like the team and the cult, the fan base.
Yeah.
It reminded me of, I did an interview with Randy Kirk, and he wrote a book, 2 books on Elon Musk. And one of his chapters, several chapters, was the 21 competitive moats that Tesla has, of which those 2 are in it. And when I look at the entire list, though, for me, what it boils down to is what Joe Justice says, who is, he worked at Tesla, relating their agile. And it said the one metric that most matters is the speed of innovation. And so what Elon has been able to do, if you think about it, right, when you hear him say the factory is the product, the actual real product is the company. The company is the product. And so, like, the way that he built the company, of how quickly they can innovate, that is what you look at, and you try to measure that. So then that's where it doesn't matter what the product is, because like you said, today it's a car company. Car companies become illegal for some reason. Tesla's not going to go anywhere. They'll just find another product, another market, because they're an innovator. And so the way he built the company that attracts from the mission and attracts the best of the best, now they can make anything. And that's why they are making everything. Like, they just announced they're going to get into lithium refinery. They might get into HVACs. They might get into, like we just heard, they're going to do robots. It's almost like, why do we think that, they're just a car company? They're going to make all these things. So anyways, the rate of innovation, as we said, is like what you're looking for. And I've never seen a company do this. And the funny thing is, Apple does not have the rate of innovation. They used to, I think, but I am now starting to believe that they're not gonna. They will double in size. Everybody will need to buy the smart glasses that they come out with, augmented reality. But I just don't see them growing as fast as what Tesla could do, because Tesla will be in like 20 markets by the time they finally get out in their first new market.
Yeah, I'm shocked that Apple is still working on a car, apparently. I always thought it was a rumor. And no, it's apparently been a thing. But it's really hard to crack. And you'll recall Dyson spent, $500 million trying to get his into production before he realized I can't compete here. This space is too competitive. The challenges are too great. So yes, for me, this is, I am approximately all in on Tesla. I started at 75% in, and I'm probably over 95% at this point. And part of that is because it grew so much.
Right. I'm the same thing, but what I've learned is you need cash. And so I released cash last year, make sure I protect myself from a macro downturn. So just like we were saying earlier, that computing chips are getting smaller and smaller. In the same way, what Tesla represents to me is the batteries, and the batteries are getting smaller and smaller and cheaper. And now we just heard that they've got a motor that is getting smaller and no longer requiring minerals. And then they've got the AI. the intelligence, the real world AI. So there's nothing that stops Tesla from creating a leaf blower, a smart leaf blower, or even do what Dyson did, which is like, a hair dryer.
Yeah.
These things can all be possible now because you're going to need very long lasting batteries that they're going to be using for the bots. They can put it in any form factor, any
Yeah.
form factor. So it's just unbelievable what they can do if they really want it, if they had time and, if they think the market's large enough.
Okay. Herbert, thank you so much for taking the time with us today. That was awesome. I appreciate it. And for those
Thank
of you
you.
who haven't seen his channel, I'll put the link in the description. I might even have it up on screen at this point. It's Brighter with Herbert. It is wonderful. He gets just the best guests on there, and also me. So
I've
that's
had
fun.
you several times.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Many
Every
times.
Friday, every Friday,
Every Friday.
at noon. You guys got to be there for that. So,
Yeah.
what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? Leave it in the comments. We got to know. We're trying to get smarter here, and we need your help. So, yeah, stay tuned, stay juicy, and I can't wait to hear from you, clever robots, on the next one.
Ever. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, everybody.